New Age Enigma Psychotic here, and you're watching Arcadia Pod.
What's going on, wrestling fans? This is Stephen Kelly. I am the host of Arcadia Pod, 100% Nerd Stuff, the very podcast that you have the misfortune of accidentally clicking on. Well, while you're here, let's hear me ramble for a while, if you will. All right, so I am going to be talking today mostly about KCXW Checkpoint Mayhem. This is going to be another shorter episode. I wanted to just kind of get caught up on some stuff. There's going to be, like I had mentioned before, and we're going to last week's episode, or like a few days ago, I should say, we are gonna. There's not a lot of shows in June, so I have a feeling I'm gonna either skip a couple weeks or I'm gonna end up talking about other stuff for a little while. But for the most part, to get caught up on wrestling stuff, I wanted to do this, and then maybe we'll have a news and talk heavy episode next time. So this is your rundown of this show for the most part. All right. So upcoming shows, once again, this may not be everything at this point, but when I was last going through my schedule, at least, we had Checkpoint Mayhem, which is the show that I just got back from, CSW Legacy 2 in June, and then July is stacked with New Breed Wrestling in Sedalia on July 11th, 19th, which is a Sunday, Midnight Pro, the 25th, KCXW Xtreme Freedom, and the next day, Fountain City Pro Forever, which is also on a Sunday. So Sundays are going to be a happening time for wrestling shows coming soon. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's what's coming up. I will try to go to as many of those as I can. So we'll see what we can do here. All right. Now, time for Checkpoint Mayhem. Here's a quick rundown. Like I said, this is not an episode that I am going to plan to be like a 40-minute thing, but who knows? I might be jabbering for a while, but we're just going to do a quick rundown, and then I'm going to show you some photos of it like I always do. There's the poster. And one thing I always talk about with these Mayhem shows is they're always real affordable. If you're looking to take your kids to a wrestling show and you're worried about spending money, especially if you see WWE coming through and they're charging like for the worst seats $70-$80, and they're charging for like insane amounts for front row. AEW's cheaper but not as much, and even some of the indie shows around can be upwards of $50 for front row sometimes. So you're looking at these shows here. They take place at the Extreme Wrestling Center, which is the training center that a lot of the KCXW people come out of, and you're looking at paying just a flat $10, and they even had a sale on Memorial Day where you could get in for $5. And a lot of times at the shows before this, they have like a way that kids can, like for example, at Extreme Freedom, I wouldn't be surprised if they have some sort of a scavenger hunt where usually kids can get half price or free tickets or something. So KCXW is always thinking about people and how hard it is right now with money, and how tariffs and inflation is still running crazy. Gas is, gone down a tiny amount, but it's still close to $4 a gallon. And they're setting it up to where you can still have entertainment in your life. So if you have, well, I mean, you don't even have to be kids. If you are looking for anything for a family to do, I would recommend these Sunday shows. They usually start at 3, end at 5. They're not very long. They don't make it to where you miss work the next day because you're tired. I always try to go to these, and I absolutely adore them, and I'm glad that some company is doing that. So there's that. All right, so The show started out after all the introductions and the national anthem and everything with Radrico Estevez came out for an interview with Derek, the ring announcer, and he said he had some new dance moves and he was going to talk about something else, but for absolutely no reason that I can tell, Polish powerhouse Gerard Jaworski ran out and attacked him and just beat him down. He looked like he was in pretty rough pain, could barely carry his boombox out, afterwards. It's It'll be interesting to see what the cause of that was because fans were kind of just like left blindsided, like, whoa, you know, ever since winning the Season of Excellence championship and then destroying it and turning it into a trophy, Jaworski has been kind of back and forth with whether he's cool with the fans or not. But I think stuff like this is really going to show that he's just in it for himself and, whatever he's wanting to do by attacking Radrico. He definitely pulled it off, I guess, but man, we'll see what happens afterwards. Next was a singles match between the New Age Enigma Psychotic, who defeated Lady Pride with David Catton. The Extremists, whenever they come out, you always are going to have an extra person in there. So any wrestler that's going up against any member of the Extremists are always doing a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1 match most of the time. And that was exactly what we had here. Despite that, it looked like Psychotic was able to stay one step ahead of everything, and he's used to wrestling Lady Pride and Catton for that, and he managed to ignore some of the blatant, or he to withstand some of the blatant cheating that they were doing and managed to get the win when it was all said and done. So it was an awesome way to start the show. Kudos to him. He's really moving up the rankings in KCXW. I haven't run like a 2026 standings yet, but I'm sure he's pretty high up there at this point. Next up was Old Glory 2, who defeated the chain wrestler Jude Vice with David Catton and Lady Pride. So 3-on-1. This all stemmed from what happened at the KC Rumble because Old Glory 2 made it a point to attack the Extremists during the match. So they were vowing to rip his mask off during this match. And, everybody, Vice especially, was trying to pull his mask off. He went close to the outside. Everybody was trying to do it. It looked a number of times like he was probably going to end up losing the match. And you had both Lady Pride and Catton jumping up on the apron, trying to intimidate him. But when it was all said and done, he did. You've got like a considerable weight difference between the two wrestlers with Jude and Old Glory, and it's just being picked up, huge gorilla press over his head and throwing Jude out. He threw him at one point out of the ring into his extremist partners. It seemed to beat him up pretty bad, and eventually he just ended up getting, to where he fell victim to whatever Old Glory OG2 is calling his version of the attitude adjustment, and he managed to pull off a big win. Pissed off the Extremists, they have now challenged him to a Lucha de Apuesta match where he's going to have a mask. It's going to be Old Glory's mask up against Catton's hair. So, David Catton, really long, straight hair. He's had long hair for as far as I can remember. I think last time I saw him with somewhat shorter hair was like 2022 or 3. So that's going to be crazy if that happens either way. But, coming real hot off of the recent, as of yesterday, match between El Grande Americano and the OG El Grande Americano, having a lot of wrestling fans have been kind of introduced to these like wager matches, and we could be seeing something crazy come Extreme Freedom. So I'm excited for it, and at the very least, we're going to see someone get a haircut or someone expose themselves for who they really are. So we'll see what happens. Next up, we have uh, the singles match for the number one contendership to the KCXW Metro Championship, and Burt Candy defeated the bully Harrison Cruz by pinfall. Cruz is quite a bit taller than Burt. They're both probably the similar weights for the most part. But this was a big hoss match. If I haven't seen one in a while, and they're slapping the crap out of each other, went back and forth. They had like the test of strength going on for quite a while, where they would bounce off the ropes and try to body check each other down. They did that at least 20 times before finally Candy was able to knock down Cruz. Um, like I said, back and forth, pretty evenly matched. But eventually, Candy was able to knock down Cruz, get up on the second rope, and do the Candy Crush or whatever he is calling his big second rope splash that he does. And 1, 2, 3, that was it. But what happened afterwards was interesting because next we had Big Brother Clay Huna came out and pointed out that Burt has been the #1 contendership 3 times now and has yet to win. Says he can't win the big one. Interesting because I remember when that exact same thing was said about Clay Huna, and he eventually did overcome all the adversity against him. So it's interesting how easy he has forgotten the exact situation he was in as of 2025. So he did turn on the fans in order to get there, but he overcame his an inability to win the big one. So I don't think he needs to immediately rule out that Candy's not going to do the same thing. And if that happens at his expense, that's on him, honestly, at this point. Next up was the Beasts of Reckoning making their debut. That is the tag team of the Iron Pitbull, Kenny Kingston, and Kavar Cambridge, who defeated the Squared Circle Squires of Sir Henry and Sir John. We've seen Cambridge under different names, and he has leaned up a little bit. He was a powerhouse in this match. I mean, Kenny Kingston is always a force to be reckoned with. The dude's gigantic, but Cambridge, there was a point, I think one of the moves of the night was at one point both Squires came at him, tried to do a suplex on him, and he reversed it and suplexed both of them. Doing some of his, for a big dude, he can do a lot of it really athletic stuff. So I was really, this looks like this could be a really dominant tag team, especially with KCXW really pushing tag teams right now. One of the big things coming up is they're gonna at some point throughout the year they're gonna award a tag team with the championships, the one that has the best rankings, and you get a dominant team like this, it's gonna be crazy to see where this goes. So great match. Could be the match of the night, but it was a good match and a show of good matches. You had mystery opponent versus Shooter Shai Lin, who at the last show won the women's championship. Some people might have been thinking that the mystery opponent could have been Mercy wearing a luchador mask, but I've never seen Mercy wear a luchador mask, so I'm pretty sure that wasn't her. And Shai Lin seemed very preoccupied by this, yelling, I didn't agree to a rematch and stuff. But if it's not Mercy, then I don't know what she was talking about. I mean, this mystery luchador did have some similar moves to Mercy, similar mannerisms, did the same finishing move. But like I said, I've never seen Mercy wear a mask, so I'm not convinced. She did, Shai Lin did remove the mask at one point, and I really didn't get a good, clear look at the opponent's face. So it may have been Mercy, but I wasn't convinced. It was Mercy. But anyway, it was a fun match, and it's interesting the dynamic we have here because for a while, like I had talked about in one of these previous episodes, that I was under the impression that Mercy was kind of had something up her sleeve trying to get the belt from Shai Lin, but it was actually Shai Lin that was egging on this weird relationship that the two had, and she lashed out at Mercy at the last show, and the crowd turned on her. So when she came out, she wasn't like mad at the crowd, but she just kind of had like a boo-boo face. Came out looking mad and knew she had to defend her title, and seemed like she was disgusted with like the crowd, but really wasn't saying much about it. So I don't know what's going on in her head, if she like has completely warped her personality for some reason, or if this was just a temporary, if she just it's one thing where she just cannot stand Mercy for some reason. Hopefully we'll get some answers sometime. um KCXW president Richard Goldman came out. He brought a table and a clipboard out with him, and he challenged Hard Luck Hal Rogers to a match at Extreme Freedom. He talked about the months of the disrespect that Rogers has had for him, breaking into his house, drinking some of his stuff, stealing his golf club, messing up his desk, stuff like that. Um, various things to where he has every right to be upset with Rogers. But here's the thing: Rogers did not get booked at a show late last year, and he was talking about how he didn't have any money to get his children Christmas presents for 2025's Christmas. And, that's on Richard Goldman, it looks like. It seems like Richard Goldman has had a distaste for Rogers from the very beginning and is using that as a way to kind of get at him. And Rogers, like a modern day Robin Hood, is just trying to get back at what he sees as a corrupt boss. So it's really hard to take a side on this thing. Yes, I would say that, the old adage, they have an eye for an eye. You can't just keep doing that. You can't return a bad thing. You can't get, suffer a bad thing yourself and then turn around and use that to inflict bad things on other people, which is kind of what he's doing. But, if Goldman, didn't have a personal beef against Rogers, this may not be going on. So they tussled a little bit. Rogers ended up hitting Goldman with his golf club. And after everything was signed, he revealed to Goldman that the stipulation on the match was that the winner was going to be the president of KCXW. So we could very well end up seeing President Rogers, which, Lord help us all if that happens. But, who knows? Richard Goldman in his, 1 year, give or take, of being president of KCXW, he's cleaned up a lot of uncertainty in the company and moved everything towards, like he new belts and getting, some things in there like the KC Rumble. So he, for someone that was so utterly despised for so long, Goldman's actually done a really good job. And this match really could be his undoing, and it could really tarnish his legacy for the most part. So this match coming up is gonna be interesting. All right. Then it was the main event. You had the tag team of El Diablo and Tobias Storm, who defeated Heavyweight Hendrix and Audacious. And the thing with Audacious is that he is a huge guy. He, easily weighs probably 400 pounds, but real agile also. As the name would suggest, he's kind of styled like a Roman gladiator of some sorts. Perfect hired muscle for someone like Heavyweight Hendrix, who has been trying and trying and trying to get the heavyweight gold and just keeps on, coming short. So aligning himself with such a huge, man is something that's probably going to help him out quite a bit. And, the main event scene right now is pretty much Hendrix, El Diablo, and Storm. And you can see for a while, Storm did not want any part of anyone helping him in this match. He tried to come out by himself and just start the match out. And when El Diablo got in, he didn't want any part of him helping him for a while until it became clear that Storm acting that way was going to cause himself to lose the match. So they did reluctantly kind of shake hands and work at it. But, they ended up eventually winning because somebody ended up managing to get Ode- good God, been fighting that for a while. They got Audacious outside of the XWC, the door, and they locked him out. So he couldn't get in, and so I have a picture of him like up on the glass, like looking in, like a kid looking in a candy store. And that was kind of the turning point in the match. And El Diablo and Tobias Storm ended up getting the win, and then had a kind of a tense standoff at the end because some of the matches that like the main event for the next show is going to be El Diablo versus Tobias Storm after Tobias won the number one contendership in the KC Rumble. So kind of interesting that they had to team up here, and it's going to be interesting to see where that match goes. They've wrestled before. You might remember that El Diablo beat Tobias for the championship, and then it was kind of a happy send off. They shook hands. Seems like there's more of an edge to Tobias right now. Doesn't seem like he would be happy to just give up and lose by any means. So what we've got the hair versus mask match that's been announced. We've got the Hard Luck Hal Rogers versus Richard Goldman, and we've got the Tobias Storm and El Diablo match to look forward to. So it's going to be interesting to see where Heavyweight Hendrix fits in, and if him and Audacious are going to still be in there. Then we could have whoever wins this next match, that could be the number one contender moving forward. So overall, hell of a show. Can't beat the price, especially I think some people must have taken advantage of the cheaper tickets on Memorial Day. There was a lot of kids there. It was awesome to see. The venue can only probably seat like 100 people total, honestly, but seeing it full like it was awesome. And it really goes to show that, you can run smaller wrestling shows and not, completely lose everything on them. So, solid show especially for the price. And when it eventually gets put on their Patreon, I'd recommend, watching some of these. All right. Right now, I'm going to show you some of my pictures that I took, and like I have explained, I always on my Facebook and on Instagram, I will post pictures, and I will also string some of the pictures together and make a little video with music in it. So this is what I posted. So take a look at what happened at KCXW Checkpoint Mayhem now. All right, welcome back. Thank you for watching that. And guess what? That's pretty much it for this episode. Another brisk little 20-minute chunk of jabber jabbing, jibber jabs, whatever. Next time, I think we're going to talk about movies, unless something wild happens within the wrestling world. I think we're going to go down and talk about some movies. Get ready for talk about some stuff that's come out this year so far, and then talk about the summer movie stuff that's been scheduled. So we're just getting into the whole summer movie season, and it looks like it's going to be a really good one this year. So I hope to see everybody in the next episode. Give me a thumbs up, like, favorite, subscribe, all that stuff. Find my Facebook page, sign up for that. Make sure you go on Amazon, order yourself a copy of my 2024 KC Ringside Annual. Get yourself ready for the 2025 one, which I am currently working on. And that's about it. Let me know if you you feel like I need to cover anything, or if I need to talk about anything in the future. I would love to hear anything from anybody, and send me a question. I can answer it in the mailbag. So once again, thank you all so much for stopping by. Your support is awesome, and I love each and every one of you. Have a wonderful night. Talk to you later.